Most of you aren't subscribed. Make sure to subscribe, as it helps out the channel. Without further ado, following our MC, we see him talking about how he was bullied in middle school, causing him to shut himself away from the outside world. One day whilst on his phone, our MC is engulfed by a huge flash of light, only to appear in front of a goddess, who congratulates him as he's been selected to be reincarnated. Realizing he had probably passed away in his room, he hears that the goddess warns him that the new world only cares about magic prowess, so she states she'll give him a little boost. Hearing such an amazing offer, our MC reckons that he should try to replicate his shut-in life in this new world, striving to spend all day watching anime and playing games. Just like that, our MC is reincarnated as a baby, spotting a king calling out to his wife Giselet, happy to see that their child is a boy, and has a royal insignia as a birthmark. Deducing that his parents are royalty, our MC gets excited for the easy life, but notices that the king is now having our MC's potential gauged through a crystal ball. Stating that he himself is of pure royal blood, and his wife is a powerful adventurer, the king expects his son to have a maximum mana level cap of at least 40 or 50, but is disappointed when the orb reveals our MC's maximum mana level is 2. On top of that, the orb states that our MC has no elemental affinities, and can only use barrier magic, disappointing the king and queen. Knowing that they'll be a laughing stock among other nobles, the king and queen decide to fake their child's death, telling everyone their son died at childbirth, but both are upset that they had already given our MC the name of Reinhardt. Shocked that his parents don't want him, our MC hears the king order his servants to dispose of the child in a nearby forest, helpless to do anything. Cutting to the goddess that reincarnated him, she chats with another god, admitting that she gave our MC too high of a level and that the orb couldn't read our MC's true level of 1002, plus she forgot to give him any elemental affinities. Later that night, we see our MC curled up in a blanket, struggling to even move with his body. Testing out his barrier magic, our MC imagines a cube, easily conjuring up a cubic barrier. Testing out different colors and shapes, our MC wonders if he can encase himself with a cube, only to be amazed when he manages to lift himself up with his barrier magic. Happy to know he can at least run away from danger, our MC is caught off guard when a monster sneaks up on him, barely able to erect his barrier before being devoured. Surprised that his barrier is so sturdy, our MC pelts the monster with some cubic barriers, but when he sees that the cubes aren't doing anything, he follows up by tossing some trees at the monster. With the monster still not yielding, our MC picks up a huge chunk of land with his barrier, preparing to squash the monster, but suddenly hears the creature speak. Stopping to chat, our MC refuses to take the name Reinhardt, introducing himself as Haruto, only to see the creature apologize, only wanting to replenish its mana by devouring him. Knowing that his body is still too young to speak, Haruto encases his vocal cords with a barrier, able to vibrate them to emanate speech. Shocked that a baby is speaking, the creature wonders who our Haruto is, prompting Haruto to introduce himself, telling the creature that he had been abandoned. Sensing huge amounts of mana emanating from our MC, the creature urgently asks if Haruto is the Demon King reincarnated. Not wanting the creature to know he was a jobless shut-in, Haruto claims the title of the Demon King, scaring the creature as it offers its life to Haruto. Seeing the creature being dramatic, Haruto states that he'll leave it alive, as long as it doesn't try to attack him. Grateful to be spared, the creature introduces itself as a flame Fenrir, but not wanting to chat any longer, Haruto calls the flame Fenrir Flay, heading off. Stopping Haruto, Flay states that since Haruto has given it a name, they both now formed a master and slave pact. Not knowing what he had done, Haruto begins to fall unconscious, having not been fed anything since birth. Willing to do anything for her master, Flay transforms into a human form but realizes that she has no clothes, forcing Haruto to cover her with his barrier spell. Apologizing for her rudeness, she wonders what she should feed Haruto, but suddenly hears someone approaching from afar. Wanting to kill the stranger, Flay is instructed to peacefully settle any disputes first, casting a barrier that'll help him speak with her from afar. Confronting a man, Flay demands to know why he's here, learning that the man is a relative of Haruto's parents, here to rescue the abandoned child. Accusing the man of using a baby for ulterior motives, Flay is proven wrong when the man reveals that he has brought breast milk for Haruto, who is excited to finally consume something. Still not believing the man, Flay demands to know the man's true motives, learning that the man had lost his own child in the past, wanting to make up for it with Haruto. Crying at such a tragic backstory, Flay reasons that this man is more qualified to raise her master, but states that she'll only allow him to raise her master as long as she's his personal attendant. With both Flay and the man agreeing, we see the man help destroy Haruto's basket, faking the baby's death. Moving 9 years forward, Haruto is living under the Margrave Gold family, with his mother, father and younger sister Char. Happy to be with such a loving family, Haruto notes how Char is very shy around him, catching the eye of Flay, who tells the two to grow closer somehow. Seeing that Char is very close with Flay, Haruto gets jealous, watching as Char and Flay play together outside. Seeing Haruto staring blankly at Char and Flay playing, Haruto's mother cheers Haruto up, reasoning that Char simply is shy and doesn't know how to act around boys that are the same age as her. Hearing this, Haruto wonders if Char knows that he is a creep reincarnated in a young boy's body, but hears his mother remind Haruto that he'll eventually inherit their wealth and suggest that Haruto play with Char every once in a while, instead of locking himself in his room. Returning to his room, Haruto thinks about running away to live his own independent life, but knows that Flay would be devastated, and his family would feel betrayed. Haruto reveals that whilst he had locked himself away, he had crafted this robot copy of himself, but sadly the robot can't speak just yet. Wondering if he can create robot copies of others, he's suddenly called by his father. Out in the yard, his father states that he'll be training Haruto on how to wield a sword, scared that Haruto is wasting his life away, believing that Haruto has low mana levels. Telling his father about his studies into ancient magic, his father is surprised to hear a unique interest, but still wants to see if Haruto has potential as a swordsman. Standing off against one another, Haruto senses his father's potent aura, having been a warrior his entire life, given the title of Earth-Shattering Warhammer. Encasing himself with a barrier, Haruto swiftly leaps towards his father, swinging his wooden sword down, only for his father to dodge as his sword snaps in half, having collided with the ground. Shocked, his father spots a massive hole from where Haruto's sword landed, taking a battle stance to gauge Haruto's skills. Swinging his blade at Haruto, his father watches as Haruto effortlessly evades his strike, knowing that only level 30 and above warriors can dodge a strike like that. Thinking back, Haruto had tried to measure his mana level several times in the past, but no changes in his level ever appeared. Instead, he believed that the goddess had, in exchange for the low mana level, gave him unlimited potential with barrier magic. Knowing that his son still has much to learn, Haruto's father continues to train RMC, all whilst Char watches. That night, Haruto's father chats with his wife, whilst Char lays on her mother's lap. Revealing that Haruto has crazy skills, Haruto's father wonders if he must be a demon's offspring, as there have been tales of the royal family experimenting with demons. Refusing to believe such a thing, Haruto's mother chalks it up to be the royal insignia exhibiting strange traits, explaining why a demon beast like Flay is so close to Haruto. Nonetheless, both Haruto's mother and father state that they'll continue to raise Haruto just like a normal child, not knowing that Char is listening in on everything. Laying in bed, Haruto notes how his father has been very busy lately, happy that he gets to skip sword training. Hearing men screaming outside, Haruto uses barrier's magic to track down the source of the noise, shocked to see so many people injured. Confronting his father, Haruto sees his father shooken up, revealing that he and his men had set out to hunt down some thieves terrorizing his land. But having underestimated the thieves, their forces were ambushed, resulting in his men being severely injured, all because of his rash decisions. Seeing his father on the brink of breaking down, Haruto returns to his room, but before he does, he hears Flay insulting his father, ordering her to be silent, only to heal all of the wounded soldiers. That night, Flay waits outside Haruto's room, waiting for Haruto to wake up, apologizing for insulting Haruto's father. Chatting privately outside, Haruto begins scanning the surrounding area with his barrier magic, spotting several men camped nearby, realizing that the men are normal bandits and knights. Finding it suspicious that such weak men were able to severely injure his father's forces, Haruto suspects that there is a spy amongst their ranks. Knowing that he should solve this conflict quickly, Haruto and Flay fly towards the bandits, all whilst Char watches. Cutting to the leader of the bandits, The leader is seen celebrating their surprise attack on Haruto's father, sad that they weren't able to eliminate the infamous earth-shattering Warhammer warrior once and for all. Suddenly the men spot Haruto and Flay, readying their blades, only to be frozen in place by Haruto. When one of the men threatens Haruto, Haruto blows the man into a nearby wall, demanding the remaining men to answer his questions. Interrogating the men, Haruto learns that the men are knights from the Empire, a neighboring kingdom sent to cause mayhem. Realizing that they probably got help, Haruto realizes that someone with equal or greater influence must be after his father's land. With nothing left to ask the men, Haruto orders Flay to burn down the entire camp, prompting Flay to kill every single person in her vicinity. As Haruto and Flay walk through the woods, Haruto states that he should learn about the politics surrounding this world, but he'll first anonymously update his father on what he just learned. The next morning, Haruto's father, with Char on his lap, learns that the bandits have been either killed or captured, worried that the Empire is up to no good. Asking her father who could have slayed all the bandits, Haruto's father states that the person must be cold, calculative and able to wield fire magic. Deducing that it was Flay, Haruto's father brushes it off as Flay accidentally stumbles upon them that night whilst out hunting. Remembering that she saw Haruto and Flay leaving the castle that night, Char leaves her father's room, rushing to Flay, demanding to know who Haruto really is. Wondering if Char had hit her head, Char states that last night she had seen Haruto and Flay leave the castle, but when she entered his room, she saw her brother sleeping in bed, but this time she couldn't sense his potent mana. Impressed that Char can sense Haruto's overwhelming mana pool, Flay states that Haruto is by far the strongest being that has ever existed, easily surpassing her own powers. But Flay stops there, stating that she can't reveal Haruto's true identity, and that Char should be proud to be related to Haruto. That evening, Flay tells Haruto about Char getting more suspicious about who Haruto truly is, prompting Haruto to begin surveying Char's every move. That night as Haruto heads to the bathroom, he finds it adorable that Char is tailing him, but when he offers to have a chat, Char simply runs away. As several days pass, Char is seen continuously watching over Haruto's actions, during his training, mealtimes and throughout his day. One day, as Haruto has breakfast with the family, he learns that his mother and Char are leaving to attend a festival, one that happens every year. Just in case, Haruto suggests that they take Flay with them, but realizes he hasn't seen Flay in a while, having sent Flay out to intimidate the surrounding monsters to not attack any nearby towns or villages. Seeing Char still cautious of him during dinner, Haruto's mother and Char head out for the festival. As Haruto returns to his room to lay on his bed, he occasionally checks up on them. Suddenly Haruto gets an alert. Cutting to Haruto's mother and Char, we see they have been ambushed by bandits, barely able to escape, as the knights stay back to stall the bandits. Seeing some bandits firing magic projectiles towards them, Haruto's mother is forced to expend mana, casting a barrier to block the incoming projectiles, but fails to block all but one. As Haruto's mother gets injured from a projectile, we see Haruto communicating with Char, asking her to guide their mother deep into the forest. Seeing as there is no other option, Haruto's mother continues to follow Char's directions, wondering who could be helping them to escape. As they reach a cliff, Haruto's mother is instructed to jump, realizing that she should cushion their fall with her magic. Reaching a moss cave, Haruto's mother asks that Char remain in this cave, as she will go find help, stating a hero of justice will surely save them. Scared that her mother won't return, Char begins to break down, but knows finding help is the only option. As Haruto's mother leaves the cave, she realizes the entrance to the cave had been covered by illusionary magic, wondering who is helping them. Just then the bandits catch up, spotting Haruto's mother, but reasons that Char is not too far from here. Knowing that if she gets captured, she'll be tortured, Haruto's mother pulls out a dagger, willing to end her own life. It means Char's location won't be revealed. Before Haruto's mother can end her own life, Haruto destroys his mother's dagger, knocking her out, only to catch her. Pissed that the bandits had forced his mother to attempt to take her own life, Haruto roars, blasting all the bandits back, knocking every single one out. Back in the cave, Char begs for help to arrive, only to sense a familiar potent aura approaching, telling Char that her mother is safe and that help will arrive soon. Recognizing the potent aura, Char comes out from her hiding spot, seeing Haruto at the entrance of the cave. Having not expected Char to come out of hiding, Haruto greets Char, only for her to ask if Haruto is the hero of justice, assigned to save them. Wondering where Char could have gotten these ideas from, he learns that his mother had stated that a hero of justice would come save them, therefore Haruto must be the hero they were waiting for. Replying that he is indeed a hero of justice, Haruto asks that Char keep his powers a secret, which makes Char excited as she is being entrusted with keeping a huge secret. That night, Haruto and his father learn that Char and Haruto's mother are now being escorted by Flay, and that all the knights that were injured in the ambush have all been miraculously healed. Wanting to know Haruto's opinion on the whole situation, Haruto states that he has no idea who could be helping them, attempting to change topics. With his father refusing to change topics, Haruto reasons that it would be the best time to hint at the fact that there must be a traitor allowing so many bandits to enter his father's domain without them knowing. Satisfied that his father now suspects people close to him, Haruto hears his father mention a dangerous lady, but before he can ask about this lady, Char, Haruto's mother and Flay return home. Having bursted through the door, Char leaps onto Haruto, surprising everyone as they wonder when Char and Haruto have gotten so close. Nonetheless, Haruto's parents are happy to see that their two children have grown so close, but Flay is clearly jealous that Char is being too touchy with her master. Several days later, Char has been constantly visiting Haruto's room, not knocking annoying him a bit. But since she's too adorable, he prefers this over her avoiding him. Asking what Haruto is working on, Char learns Haruto is experimenting with some surveillance magic. Magic Haruto is forced to categorize as ancient magic as he believes no one would know the spell. Char offhandedly mentioned that she had seen a similar spell in their home's library, a location he didn't know existed. Swiftly retrieving several books, Char sits down with Haruto, skimming the books and learning that ancient magic had been lost to history and instead elemental magic is more common in the modern day. Wondering if his barrier magic is ancient magic, as it is not considered elemental magic, he's happy to see Char so interested in learning the history of ancient spells, surprised she has been reading books with the help of Flay and her mother. Seeing as this is the perfect bonding time, Char sits on Haruto's lap, asking Haruto to begin reading the books to her. Learning that gods can travel between worlds, Haruto mentions how this was a common concept in the anime that he watched, piquing Char's interest. Attempting to explain the concept of colored frames, moving frames and animation to Char, Haruto gets scared that he may have freaked out Char with these otherworldly concepts, but instead is surprised to see Char now interested in this anime. Haruto speaks off. Grateful to have such an adorable sister, Haruto spends 2 weeks setting up a computer and invents his own internet system in this world. Setting up an account for Char to watch anime, Char is instantly hooked on the flashy colors and animations, but has issues understanding the Japanese language. Spending time teaching her Japanese, Haruto is amazed with Char's learning rate, able to understand basic Japanese concepts on the computer. Another 2 weeks pass, and Char has begun exploring the zombie genre, making Haruto wonder if Char is truly a genius. Knowing that he should restrict her screen time, Haruto sees Char so energetic, but he puts his foot down, stating that she is allowed to have 3 hours of screen time every day only. That night, Char begins falling asleep at the dinner table, prompting her mother to ask what she's been doing lately. When Char tells her parents that she's been learning ancient magic with Haruto, her mother gets super excited, asking Char and Haruto to keep up the good work. Before they head to sleep, Char and Haruto take a bath, only to part ways for the night. Before Haruto falls asleep, he notices Char sharing his bed, spotting his mother watching over them, so happy to see her children growing so close. The next morning, the family gathered to see Haruto's father off, heading to track down the cause for the increase in bandits on his land. Returning to Haruto's room, Char is seen sad, not wanting her father to get hurt, but Haruto reassures her that their father is very strong. Still, Char gets an idea. Using her adorable face, she convinces Haruto to follow their father for safety. Wanting to impress Char, Haruto transforms like the people in the anime Char watches, impressing his little sister. Since it'll be dangerous, Haruto orders Char to stay put, but gives her a screen to watch the action. Heading out, Haruto surveys the area, spotting some bandits in a nearby cave, immediately erecting a barrier to trap them in the cave. Since his sister is watching, he heads to the location, announcing himself as the hero of justice, only to swiftly knock out the bandits. Before he can flee the scene, Haruto spots his father and his men arriving, wanting to know if this masked man defeated these bandits. Having not picked a name yet, Haruto reveals that he is the hero of justice, but before Haruto's father can thank him for saving his wife and daughter, Haruto flies off. Returning completely exhausted, Haruto is forced to keep this edgy persona, as he wants to impress Char. Whilst transformed, Haruto keeps up the persona, but at the same time he has improved his robots. Asking the robot basic questions, Haruto gets annoyed by the robot's behavior, but realizes that Char is in the room with them. Having been resting in Haruto's bed, Char gets confused who the real Haruto is, but is interrupted when Haruto and Char are called to greet some guests. Heading outside, a prince and a princess are seen visiting, but the prince is clearly disgusted at Haruto's father's dirty fields, prompting the princess to ask the prince to be quiet. Personally greeting Princess Marianne and Prince Laius, Laius immediately acts bratty, demanding Haruto's father to bow more deeply. Hearing her brother being so disrespectful, Marianne asks that Laius be nicer, but Laius reminds Marianne that he is the next ruler of this country and that she is simply a political tool. Seeing the cocky prince, Haruto glares at Laius, but is caught staring. Feeling insulted, Laius refuses to allow a level 2 adopted child disrespect him, demanding to duel Haruto. With both Laius and Haruto facing off with wooden swords, Haruto scans Prince Laius's stats, realizing that the prince is currently level 9 out of a max level of 40, noting how he's heard the strongest ever known mage had a max level of 77. Checking his father and the princess, he realizes that a max level of 40 is quite impressive, compared to his father's max level of 32 and Princess Marianne's max level of 33. Spotting Laius rushing towards him, Haruto evades the prince's advances, but realizes he should get hit a couple times to gauge the Prince Laius' strength. Casting a barrier around himself, Haruto allows himself to get pummeled, but when Laius orders him to fight back, Haruto disappears, appearing behind Laius, easily knocking him down. Pissed, Laius tries to fight back, but is tripped over continuously, making Marianne wonder if Haruto is truly level 2. Answering the princess's question, Haruto's father says he personally doesn't know the reason for Haruto's exceptional skills, but right at that moment, Prince Laius casts a fireball at Haruto. Reacting just in time, Haruto projects a barrier in front of him, absorbing all incoming fireballs. But since Haruto's barriers are invisible, the prince demands to know what is happening, refusing to believe that a level 2 like Haruto is capable of advanced absorption magic. Annoyed that he's being questioned, Haruto retrieves the absorbed fireballs, unleashing them as a burst, bringing the cocky Prince Laius to his knees, finally admitting defeat. With the duel over, Princess Marianne apologizes for her younger brother's actions, but Haruto says it's fine, heading back to his room. Realizing that Prince Laius and Princess knew of his maximum level being 2, he wonders if his parents that abandoned him in the forest had leaked his level. Late at night, Char is using Haruto's surveillance magic, spotting some suspicious people in a nearby forest. Just then, Flay interrupts, having heard from Char that Haruto has been fighting bad guys himself, offering to join him for his upcoming journey. Not wanting Flay to make things more complicated, Haruto asks about the tasks he's assigned her, but Flay states that she had finished all the yard work she had been assigned and had scared off the monsters approaching nearby villagers. Seeing that Flay and Haruto will be working together, Char begins thinking about all sorts of adventures, with Flay as Haruto's sidekick. Playing along, Flay states that she'll devote herself to Haruto and fulfill Char's ideas, but when Haruto asks Flay to drop the act, Flay scolds Haruto for not thinking about Char's imagination. Before Haruto and Flay head out, Haruto orders Flay to keep the violence to a minimum, especially with Char watching over them. Cutting to the suspicious people, we hear them bragging about the goods they had stolen, excited about the food they'll get to buy. Suddenly, Haruto appears from the darkness in his transformed form, introducing himself as the Black Knight. Right after, Flay follows after Haruto, introducing herself as the Crimson Knight. Conjuring a flame in her palm, Flay tosses a fireball towards the men, burning the men alive, all whilst Haruto orders Flay to not act so violently. Stopping Flay's flames, Haruto casts a barrier around the men, protecting them for the time being, only to appear beside Flay, ordering her to halt all attacks. Obeying Haruto's orders, Flay holds back from finishing off the men, watching as Haruto ties up the men. Returning to his room, Haruto is clearly exhausted, but hears Char amazed by Flay and Haruto's teamwork. Thanking the little miss, Flay states that she couldn't show off all of her power today, but next time she will. As the girls continue to chat, Haruto states that he's conflicted between working with Flay or not, as Flay is uncontrollable at times, but with Flay, Char is happy. Cutting elsewhere, we see that Prince Laius is still embarrassed, suffering from defeat from a nobody like Haruto. Hearing his attendant calling him, he asks his attendant to enter, reminded that he must prepare for a banquet very soon. As Laius dresses up, his attendant proposes that he invite Char to his farmland tour tomorrow, but when Laius refuses, his attendant gets serious, forcing Laius to accept the proposal. Back with Haruto, we see that Char had returned from the same banquet with Haruto's clone, serving Haruto some high-quality food from the banquet. Haruto's clone gets mad that he was forced to socialize, leaping into bed exhausted, but Haruto reassures his clone that he'll personally be attending the farmland tour tomorrow. Hearing this, Char mentions how Prince Laius had invited her to the farmland tour as well, weirding Haruto out. That night, Haruto makes preparations for the farmland tour tomorrow, since Char is coming along. First he checks the tour route, spotting some hooded men gathered around a ritual circle. Immediately heading out, Haruto transforms, appearing beside the men, asking if they have permission from his father, Gold Zenfis, to be casting a spell here. Assuming that Haruto is an enemy, the hooded men all prepare spells to fire at Haruto, but Haruto reacts fast, interrupting the hooded men's incantations and blasting all the men away. Seeing a single hooded man still conscious, Haruto watches as the man uses the ritual circle to summon skeleton knights. Creeped out by the skeletons, Haruto equips a sword, destroying the skeletons in a single swing, but just like in the games he played, the skeletons refuse to die. With the hooded men calling all the skeletons to pile on Haruto, Haruto erects a cubic barrier around himself, blowing the skeletons away, only to spot a red crystal in the skeleton's chest. Ordering his skeletons to continue attacking Haruto, the hooded men are terrified to see the skeletons are now attacking them, forcing one of them to summon a golem, destroying the skeletons. Turning its attention to Haruto, the golem swings at Haruto's barrier, managing to send Haruto flying back into a tree. Having underestimated the golem, Haruto spots the same red crystal in the golem's chest, leaping into the air to get a better angle. Conjuring a spike, Haruto tosses the spike directly at the golem's crystal, which absorbs the spike, shutting the golem down temporarily. When the golem wakes up, it turns on the hooded men too, making the hooded men wonder the cause of this. Appearing behind the hooded men, Haruto explained that he had intended to shatter the crystal cores of both the skeletons and the golem, but instead it seemed that the projectile he created with his magic overrode the crystal cores, making Haruto the new master of the skeletons and golem. Tying up the hooded men with his new summons, Haruto attempts to interrogate the leader of the hooded men, but realizes that his threats aren't working. Coming up with an idea, Haruto makes the leader watch as his men are buried alive, finally able to get the leader to reveal that he is the part of the personal summoner unit of the queen in a neighboring kingdom. Wondering why the hooded men are even here, the leader reveals that they had planned to summon creatures to attack Char tomorrow whilst they were on their farmland tour. Pissed that they are targeting his sister, Haruto demands to know the reason, learning that the queen is aware of Char's maximum potential, fearing that Char would be able to sway politics in her favor in the future with her overwhelming power. Thinking rationally for a second, Haruto deduces that the only queen that would be after his father, mother and Char's life is his biological mother. Pissed at this woman's disgusting intentions, Haruto vows to protect his family, plotting a plan to deal with the queen's schemes. The next morning, Haruto, Char, Laius and Marianne all sit in a carriage. Seeing Laius in a grumpy mood, Char attempts to cheer Laius up, stating that he should be proud of losing to Haruto, but this only gets him more mad. Demanding to know how Haruto was so physically skilled during their duel, Haruto reveals that he can perform any modifications to his physical body whenever, surprising Laius and Marianne. Laius wonders if Haruto is a returned demon, prompting Char to explain that a returned demon is born when a demon has a child with a human. These returned demons have extraordinary physical prowess and large mana pools, but the only difference between Haruto and a returned demon is that Haruto doesn't have horns or wings. Just then, the carriage stops, having arrived at a massive wheat field, right before sundown. With Laius and Marianne watching over Char as she explores the field, Haruto asks to have a word with his father. Sitting down, Haruto asks what his father would do if Char were to be attacked, prompting Haruto's father to reveal that he had gotten a letter last night from the mysterious Black Knight, warning him that the queen is after Char's life. Sadly, Haruto's father can't do anything, since the death of the queen means that there would be a power struggle for the throne between nobles. Haruto's father reveals that Haruto's biological father, King Jilk, fell from power long ago. Haruto's father states that before Haruto was born, King Jilk and Queen Giselit were part of the army that defeated the Demon King. Having been the one to personally decapitate the Demon King herself, Giselit was hailed as a hero, given the title Flash Princess, even marrying King Jilk. Ever since then they had 3 children, Prince Laius, Princess Marianne and Haruto. But there are rumors that Queen Giselit is trying to take the kingdom for herself. Knowing that he himself is not suited to take the throne, Haruto's father mentions that the only way to overthrow the queen is to have someone more powerful defeat her, hinting at the fact that he plans on waiting for Char to be old enough before involving her in politics. Haruto's father states that he knows Char is a genius, even having the potential to outgrow the Flash Princess Giselit herself. Until then, Haruto's father asks that Haruto watch over her. As Flay and Haruto walk through the field, Flay offers to bring Haruto the queen's head, but Haruto states that they must make sure Char grows up safely first, only then will he personally slay his biological mother. Cutting to Queen Giselit, she sits upon her throne menacingly sipping on wine, pissed to hear reports of a mysterious masked man, by the name of the Black Knight, thwarting her attempts at slaying Char. Disappointed at her servants, Giselit dumps a glass of wine on her servants, thinking that Char is the only person that will surpass herself in the future. Retrieving the holy sword she had used to slay the Demon King, Giselit wonders if she herself should hunt down this Black Knight, but everyone suddenly hears a voice. As Giselit's slaves ready their blades to protect Giselit, mysterious barriers suddenly knock them out, prompting Haruto as the Black Knight to reveal himself. Demanding to know how Haruto had made his way to her location, Haruto laughs at the queen's barrier magic, meant to keep out intruders. Happy that she doesn't have to search for the Black Knight, Giselit swiftly casts a water spell, surrounding Haruto in a sphere of water. As Haruto begins to drown, the queen gets joyful at Haruto's pain, but spots Haruto projecting himself out of her water sphere, with his barrier magic. Whilst in midair, Haruto is forced to erect a barrier to stop incoming ice magic from Giselit, but is forced to tank a fire spell Giselit had simultaneously casted. Falling to his knees, Haruto is surprised that Giselit not only is a master swordsman, but also has water, ice and fire elemental affinity. Smirking at Haruto's jealousy, Giselit realizes that Haruto is not injured whatsoever, wondering how capable the Black Knight is. Seeing Haruto raise his hand, Giselit is suddenly stunned to see a beam of light fly towards her, barely able to block it, shocked that she didn't sense any incantation from Haruto. Hearing Haruto state that he's now going to take the fight seriously, Giselit instinctively casts her barrier magic, managing to block hundreds of projectiles from Haruto. Seeing Haruto unfazed with casting so many projectiles, she states that Haruto has a far greater mana pool than the Demon King she fought. Knowing that keeping her barrier up takes up huge amounts of mana, Giselit temporarily drops her barriers, rushing in with her holy sword, but Haruto had anticipated this, thwarting her attempts. As they both exchange blows, Giselit leaps onto Haruto, mounting him and declaring that she has personally made sure that she's the strongest in the world. Having now gauged Giselit's maximum potential, Haruto slashes and disarms Giselit, administering his punishment, a collar for the once Flash Queen. Attempting to rip off the collar, Giselit is warned to not, as the collar will decapitate her if she tries to remove it. Giving Giselit a warning, Haruto states that she is not to come near the Zenfis family or else he'll make sure that he doesn't spare Giselit next time. As Haruto takes his leave, Giselit realizes that she's now under the service of another being, laughing maniacally alone, as she realizes she's no longer the strongest. Meeting up with Flay, Flay congratulates Haruto's victory over the Flash Queen Giselit, ensuring Char and his family's safety for the time being. Moving 5 years forward in time, whilst watching Flay and Char play in the snow, Haruto narrates how it's been a peaceful 5 years, with no sighting of the Queen Giselot scheming against his family. Wishing he had stayed in his room, Haruto watches as Flay constructs a massive snow castle, wondering if Flay is cold in her maid outfit. Proudly whilst shivering, Flay states that since this was the first outfit Haruto had gifted her, she will gladly wear it forever. Ignoring Flay, Haruto crafts some warm clothes for Flay, telling Flay that they should maintain a healthy relationship and to state any discomforts she has with him. Suddenly coming up with an idea, Char states that she had been thinking of a special attack Haruto can use whilst in the snow. Reluctantly listening to Char's suggestion, Haruto walks a couple steps away from Char and Flay, embarrassingly announcing a new spell incantation. Haruto conjures a mini tornado in his palm. Firing the tornado into the snow, Haruto impresses Flay and Char, as he has torn a massive crater into the ground. Jumping into Haruto's arms, Char is so happy to have an amazing brother, which Haruto notes embarrassing himself to please Char isn't so bad. Just then, Haruto's parents arrive, wondering who could have created the massive crater, but Haruto creates a Black Knight clone blaming the clone, and managing to hide his power from his parents. As Flay, Char and Haruto's mother begin building snow sculptures, Haruto has a chat with his father, learning that his father hasn't heard anything regarding Queen Giselot's schemes. Plus there are rumors that Queen Giselot has been enslaved, as she has been seen with a slave collar around her neck. As his father thinks about who would have enslaved the almighty Flash Queen Giselot, Haruto quietly sneaks off, as his job of keeping Char safe is basically complete. But before he can leave, his father states that Haruto will be joining the Royal Capital School these coming weeks, apologizing to Haruto as there are complicated factors that Haruto's father couldn't refuse. Wallowing in despair, Haruto deems to resolve these complicated factors, if it means he'll finally get to live the shut-in life he had always wanted. Back in Haruto's father's office, Haruto attempts to talk his way out of enrolling, but Haruto's father reveals a personal invitation letter from the king, suggesting Haruto to enroll. Haruto's father speculates that King Jilk was influenced by his daughter, Princess Marianne, who has taken a liking to Haruto. On top of that, Prince Laius will be skipping grades to join Haruto in the same grade, meaning that Haruto will inevitably be forced to spend time with Laius. Haruto's father warns Haruto to be careful, since he suspects that Queen Giselot might be using Princess Marianne to enact her schemes from the shadows, asking Haruto to investigate this. Thinking about how much his father has done for him, Haruto agrees to attend the school, if it means that he'll make his father proud. Before Haruto leaves, he is reminded to take an attendant with him, to help with living on campus. Knowing that he shouldn't bring Flay, Haruto is stumped, having no other attendants to choose from. Hearing her son considering attendants, Haruto's mother suggests herself, having eavesdropped on their conversation, but Haruto is forced to reject his mother's offer. Returning to his room, Haruto chats with his robot clones, scheming ways to get expelled. Since his robot clone can't use magic, Haruto suggests his clone replaces him at the school, and intentionally gets expelled. But Haruto notes that he has to get expelled all whilst preserving his family name. Coming up with an idea, Haruto suggests his clone start a fight with other students, but his clone begins to protest, stating that he can't do anything against magical students. As a compromise, Haruto promises to permanently cast a magic barrier around his clone to protect him, whilst he impersonates him at school. Several days have passed, and Haruto is spending time in a log hut that he had secretly built, having intended to spend an isolated life here when all his duties have been completed. Just then, Flay and Char arrive, donning her magic girl outfit from the anime she's been watching. Char states that she was told off for clinging and spending too much time with Haruto, but Haruto suggests that he can sneak her in and out of his room with teleportation magic. Trying it with objects first, Flay and Char are amazed as Haruto is able to create 2 portals to simulate teleportation, but Haruto states that he has never tried with living objects before. With Flay suggesting using Haruto's clone, Haruto creates a portal to his clone who is chilling in his room, ordering his clone to try out the portal. When his clone refuses, Flay gets pissed for refusing her master, personally hopping through the portal and tossing the clone through the portal. With that, Haruto confirms that he can now teleport a living or non-living object, but he still needs to find an attendant. With Flay cleaning up the windows of the hut, Char enjoying some anime and Haruto gaming, Haruto suddenly blurts out that he needs to find an attendant for school. Seeing Flay and Char get curious at what he means by an attendant, Haruto pardons himself, not wanting to tell the girls that he's looking for an attendant to go to school with. Walking down the bank along a river, Haruto notes how he needs to keep his search a secret from the girls, knowing that he has only 3 months left to find an attendant. Suddenly hearing something in the nearby forest, Haruto heads down a path in the forest, spotting his skeleton summons building homes. Upon seeing their master arrive, the skeletons rush to greet Haruto, which makes Haruto reminisce. Apparently after stealing them from the hooded men that summoned them, the skeletons never disappeared, so Haruto had decided to give them a piece of land, and ever since the skeletons have been settling down. Shocked at the efficiency and joy the skeletons have, Haruto reveals that he had given the leader of the skeleton army the name Johnny. Looking around, Haruto notes how there are various other monsters living amongst the skeletons, learning that the monsters were scared off by Flay, and have nowhere to live, so the skeletons offered them a home here, reassuring Haruto that the monsters follow the rules just like everyone else. Since Haruto is here, Johnny offers to show Haruto how much they've expanded on the land they were given. Taking Haruto to their crop field, Johnny states that they don't steal any vegetables, instead growing them themselves, showing off various vegetables. Seeing his skeletons so proud of the vegetables, Haruto realizes that the skeletons don't need to eat, deducing that the skeletons are growing crops for the monsters they let stay. Taking Haruto to see the cattle and wheat productions, Haruto can't help but notice how soothing Johnny's voice truly is, but he does note how annoying it is that Johnny is a bit of a chatterbox. With Johnny asking for any advice on their progress with the land, Haruto tells Johnny to keep up the good work, leaving right away. With the sun beginning to set, Haruto thinks about how he has wasted the whole day with little to no progress, sitting on the bank of a river. Hearing some large thumps in the ground, Haruto realizes that he also has the golem summon, which he had named Gigan. Sitting next to Haruto, Gigan hands Haruto a flower, shyly blushing as it twiddles its fingers. Wondering why Gigan is out here all alone, Haruto asks if Gigan doesn't like being around the other creatures, but Gigan suddenly confesses that it loves Haruto. Thanking Gigan for its lovely words, Haruto begins heading back to the hut, wondering why he has such bad luck. Upon entering the hut, Flay is seen waiting for Haruto, instantly questioning Haruto about this attendant that he's been searching for. Knowing that he can lie to Flay, he instead states that it doesn't concern Flay, swiftly walking off. The next morning, Haruto continues to enjoy his video games, noticing Char wanting to talk to him. Asking her what's the problem, Char reveals that she's been thinking of alternative names for Haruto's masked man persona. Taken to the skeleton villages, Char is amazed that the skeletons are all friendly, offering to name the village Pandemonium Village, the home to the Garden of Demons, which the skeletons graciously accept. Cutting to a snowy terrain, we see several men uncovering a hibernating dragon, happy to have finally found the blizzard dragon. Knowing that the materials from slaying the blizzard dragon will fetch the men huge amounts of gold, they all ready their weapons, but suddenly the dragon takes off. Attempting to stop the creature, the men fire arrows at the dragon, causing the creature to spiral out of the sky, falling into a river only to be helplessly swept away by the ferocious combination of water and snow. Back with Haruto, he's seen with Flay and his father, learning of a mysterious blue dragon spotted on the edge of his father's territory. Since the blue dragon is so far away, Haruto states that it's not their problem, but Haruto's father states that dragons are quite powerful creatures, and if they are left alone, it could easily cause huge amounts of destruction to the land. Since it's quite dangerous, Haruto asks Flay to go attempt to communicate with the blue dragon, prompting Flay to state that she's never heard of a blue dragon, meaning it couldn't have been born in the past several years. Flay states that whilst she was partaking in the demon versus human wars, she had never once heard the existence of a blue dragon. Therefore she assumes that the blue dragon had been hiding away like a coward. Therefore she has no business trying to speak with a coward. As Haruto leaves his father's office, he spots Char eavesdropping on their conversation, personally asking Flay to rescue the blue dragon. Unable to resist Char's adorable charm, Haruto and Flay agree to visit the dragon. With Haruto transformed, he and Flay head into the snowy mountains, able to track down the blue dragon, noting how beaten up the creature looks. At the same time, Flay spots several hunters, who seem to be looking for the blue dragon, prompting Haruto and Flay to immediately head out. Cutting to the resting blue dragon, it's awoken by the cries of hunters rushing towards it, but before the hunters can harm the dragon, Haruto and Flay arrive, standing off against the hunters. As Haruto focuses on healing the blue dragon, Flay unleashes her flames, single-handedly knocking out all the hunters. With the blue dragon now all healed up, it moves closer to Haruto, suddenly releasing a breath of ice, encasing Haruto in ice. Annoyed, Haruto states that the dragon should be grateful to be healed, suddenly realizing that he can hear the dragon's voice. Now with a means to communicate, Haruto asks to know who and how the dragon got here, but is cut off as it wonders why such a powerful demon like Flay is serving a human. Seeing as this is the perfect time to educate the dragon on her master's capability, Flay spends an hour telling the dragon about Haruto's amazing feats, and that Haruto is considered the reincarnation of the Demon King himself. Impressed, the dragon apologizes for not participating in the demon war, which Haruto notes that dragons are considered demons in this world. Apparently, the blue dragon had spent the last 300 years alone in a cave sleeping, until one day an adventurer had visited it, leaving behind a book that fascinated the dragon. In search for more knowledge, the blue dragon left its cave, transforming into a human visiting a nearby town, only to steal books only to return to its cave to read. Sadly, the dragon's cave was discovered, and all the books it had compiled had been burnt, forcing the dragon to flee, forced into an endless cycle of hide and seek with hunters. Hearing the dragon's tragic life, Flay accepts the dragon's apology, accepting it as an ally, and welcoming it to Pandemonium Village. Accepting Flay's offer, the blue dragon offers to serve under Haruto, officially forming a pact and transforming into a human. With Haruto crafting a maid outfit for the blue dragon, Haruto officially introduces himself, giving the blue dragon the name Liza. Seeing Liza and Haruto growing close, Flay gets jealous and reminds Liza that she is Haruto's first servant, but before she can finish, Haruto and Liza fly off, prompting Flay to run beneath them, not wanting to lose her master to another servant. Thanks for watching. Subscribe, like and comment.